when I want sax.
I call Candy.
I mean, has there ever been a better endorsement in music history?
It's got to be in the top 5. It's a flex.
Oh, absolutely. And it came from Prince, so it's basically a royal decree.
Exactly.
So today, we are unpacking the career of the woman who got that call. We are doing a deep dive into Candy Dulfer.
And she is such a fascinating figure, a Dutch alto saxophonist who really managed to do something that it just shouldn't work on paper.
Right.
She bridged this huge gap between the highbrow Amsterdam jazz scene and, glittery stadium pop funk.
It's a wild trajectory. And to guide us, we're not just skimming the surface here. We're working from a pretty serious stack of materials today.
We are. This includes some really detailed notes from episode 47 of the Saxophone Knowledge and Mastery podcast.
And if you know that show, you know they get deep into it.
Oh, they're obsessive. The episode was called Candy Dulfer's Winding Dutch Road to Saxophone Mastery, so we have a lot of the technical stuff, the real meat on the bone about her sound.
So our mission today is to figure out how this actually happened. How does a girl born in 1969 in Amsterdam end up on stage with Madonna and Prince?
And more than that, how did she kind of redefine what a female horn player could be in the public eye?
Yeah, because before her, the big sax solo, that was usually, a guy in a suit.
Right, or a leather jacket. She brought this completely different energy, and we need to analyze that specific funky sound she developed, because she made a very conscious choice to step away from her father's musical path.
Well, let's get right into that, because the father is, it's a huge part of this origin story.
You can't understand Candy without understanding Hans Dulfer.
Right.
She was born into, in a way, jazz royalty. Her father, Hans, is this renowned tenor saxophonist, but he wasn't playing, smooth background music.
No, I was listening to some of his stuff to prep for this, and intense is maybe the polite word for it. Free jazz it's a lot.
It's a lot. It's not about melody. It's about texture and chaos and pure expression. It's avant-garde. So that's the environment she grew up in.
Which makes her pivot even more of a rebellion, right? Usually, kids rebel by listening to punk rock.
Yeah.
Candy rebelled by playing pop music.
In a way, yeah. But what's so interesting, and the source material really emphasizes this, is that she never cut ties with her roots. She and her dad still performed together.
They did a duo album, right? Dulfer and Dulfer.
Exactly. So it wasn't a rejection of him. It was more a rejection of that, ivory tower of jazz. She wanted to play music that people could dance to.
And she didn't wait around for anyone's permission. This is the stat that just blew my mind when I was reading the notes.
I know which one you mean.
She started her own band, Funky Stuff, at age 14.
14?
That's insane. At 14, I was trying to figure out a locker combination. She's organizing a band.
And not just the let's play in the garage kind of band.
Yeah.
She was leading grown men. That's the thing.
That's the key.
It's not just playing the notes. It's logistics. It's managing egos, booking gigs. For a 14-year-old girl to command that respect from adult musicians in the early 80s, that just speaks to this incredible natural authority.
And that professionalism, it paid off fast.
So fast.
By 1987, she's barely 18, and Funky Stuff is the support act for Madonna.
On the Who's That Girl tour.
Which was probably the biggest tour on the planet at that moment.
Oh, yeah. And just think about the pressure of that environment. You're opening for Madonna in Europe. The crowds are huge. They're impatient. They are there for one person.
And it's not you.
It is not you. If you go out there and you're just okay, they will eat you alive. You can't be good for a teenager.
Yeah.
You have to be a pro.
And that's really where she polished that stage presence.
Exactly.
Okay, so since we promised to get into the weeds for the gearheads listening, let's talk about her actual horn. The Saxophone Knowledge and Mastery notes made a big deal about her setup.
Right. She plays a Selmer Mark VI alto saxophone.
Okay, so unpack that for me. Is that just a brand name, or is there some kind of magic there?
The Mark VI is. It's the holy grail of saxophones. They stopped making them in the mid-'70s.
Yeah. Oh.
It's what John Coltrane played. It's what David Sanborn played. Modern horns are, very precise, very in tune, but they can sound a little clinical, a bit bright. The Mark VI has this dark, complex core to the sound. It's got soul.
So by choosing that vintage horn, she's bringing a jazz texture into a pop song.
That's it, exactly. When you hear her play, even on a high-energy funk track, the tone isn't thin, it's thick, it cuts through the mix, but it has this warmth. It tells you she cares about the lineage of the instrument.
So she's got the horn, the jazz pedigree, the Madonna tour, but she's still the opening act. The moment she becomes the star happens in 1989.
And it involves Dave Stewart from the Eurythmics, of all people.
Such a random connection.
It is. They were collaborating on a soundtrack for a Dutch film called De Cassier.
A Dutch drama soundtrack, not exactly the launchpad you'd expect for a global smash.
No, usually those things disappear without a trace. But they recorded this one instrumental track.
Lily was here?
Lily was here.
I can hear it in my head right now. It's just such a vibe. So moody.
And that's why it's such an anomaly. Think about the pop charts in 1989. It's all Janet Jackson, Phil Collins.
Milli Vanilli.
Right, it's all vocals. For an instrumental saxophone and guitar duet to crack the charts, that is incredibly rare.
And it went to #1 in the Netherlands, #6 in the UK.
It worked because Candy treated the saxophone line like a vocal melody. She wasn't just, running scales or showing off her speed. She played a hook, a melody you could hum.
She made the sax speak.
That's the secret sauce. That success launches her solo career properly. She drops her debut album in 1990.
Saxuality.
Which you have to admit is a brilliant title.
A+ marketing, and the numbers don't lie. It sold over 1 million copies worldwide.
1 million copies for a jazz pop sax album.
And it got a Grammy nomination. But here's something I want to ask. When people hear contemporary jazz or smooth jazz, they think, yeah, elevator music. Or Kenny G, was Saxuality just smooth jazz?
That's a great question, and I think that label is a bit of a disservice. The source notes call it funk-oriented smooth jazz, but even that feels a little tame. What she did was take the rhythmic intensity of funk.
The stabs, the syncopation.
Exactly. The stuff you'd hear in a James Brown track, and she mixed it with this slick, accessible pop production. It wasn't background music, it was driving music. She made the saxophone cool to a generation that thought jazz was their parents' music.
Speaking of making things cool, we have to get to the main event here.
Okay.
We've teased it, but we need to really dive into the Prince connection, because this was not just another session gig.
No. This was an endorsement from the top.
Yeah.
You can't tell her story without Prince. He's the catalyst that takes her from European star to global icon.
And that line, "When I want sax, I call Candy," that came from the Partyman video, right?
Yes. And context here is everything. Prince was a master of his own branding. He knew exactly what he was doing. By putting her and that line in the video, he was basically telling his massive, obsessive fan base, she's one of us.
And being one of us in Prince's world, that meant something.
It really did.
I mean, I've read stories about his band, the New Power Generation. It wasn't a jam session. It was like the Marine Corps of funk.
That's the perfect analogy. The notes, lists her credits, Graffiti Bridge, the Gold Experience, 3-1 and 21. She's all over his records.
Yeah.
But the touring, that's where you earned your stripes.
She was a permanent member during the Musicology Live tour.
Right. And we all know Prince was a perfectionist.
That's an understatement. He would find musicians if they missed a cue. He'd use hand signals to change the entire arrangement mid-song.
And then, after a 3-hour arena show, he'd drag the whole band to a tiny club and just jam until 4 in the morning.
The stamina required for that.
Exactly. You can't fake it.
Yeah.
If you don't have the chops, if you can't improvise in the pocket at 3 a.m. when you're exhausted, you're gone.
So the fact that she held that chair...
It proves she is a technician of the highest order. It validates her in a way that album sales never could. She's survived the Prince boot camp.
It just puts any pop star criticism to bed. You can't
Right.
be just a pretty face with a sax and survive a Prince tour.
Impossible. He demanded absolute mastery.
So she conquers the pop world, she conquers the funk world, but looking at the notes here, she didn't just stop there. Her resume is incredibly diverse.
That versatility is what's given her such longevity.
I'm looking at this list. Van Morrison.
Yep. She's featured all over his live album, A Night in San Francisco.
That seems like such a weird pivot. I mean, Prince is all about tight, choreographed funk. Van Morrison is...
Being loose. It's Celtic soul, it's blues, it's spontaneous in a totally different way.
Right.
With Prince, you have to be precise. With Van Morrison, you have to feel. You have to weave around his vocals. The fact she could slide into that band and sound completely at home just tells you she has incredible ears. She listens.
And then, just to make it even weirder, the notes mention Pink Floyd.
Right, from funk to soul to atmospheric stadium rock. I mean, Pink Floyd is architectural music. It's all about space and tone.
It's like she's a chameleon. She can change her color to match the environment, but you always know it's her.
And that's the Mark VI again. That core tone works everywhere.
So let's look at her own records, because she didn't just rest on Saxuality.
No, she kept pushing. In '93, she released Sax A Go Go.
Again, A+ on the titles.
She knows her brand. And that album had her cover of Pick Up the Pieces.
The average white band classic.
A huge radio hit for her.
Right.
It really reinforced that at her core, she's a funk player.
And then live in Amsterdam in 2001.
Recorded at the Paradiso, which for a Dutch artist, that's the cathedral, so rite of passage. That album is so important because it captures her live energy on her own terms.
Later on, she goes back to her roots. Candy Store in 2007 is pure funk. And then Together in 2017 is more of a memoir album.
Which brings us to this whole other side of her career that I think gets overlooked. She became a media personality. She didn't just play the music, she documented the culture.
Yeah, the notes mention her TV show, Candy Meats.
In 2007, she interviewed her peers. The notes specifically mention Maceo Parker and Sheila E.
Maceo Parker, the guy who basically invented funk sax with James Brown.
Exactly. And just think about that dynamic. She's interviewing Maceo not as a journalist, but as a peer, as someone who plays the same instrument in the same genre. That opens up a whole different level of conversation.
It shows a ton of respect, too. She was using her platform to highlight the legends who came before her.
And she wrote an autobiography, Sax, Candy, and Rock and Roll. So she's an author, a TV host, a band leader.
It's exhausting just listing it all.
It is, but that's what explains the longevity. You don't last 30-plus years in this business, especially as an instrumentalist, by being a one-trick pony.
So let's try to wrap this up. When we look at this whole story, what's the big takeaway? What does Candy Dulfer represent?
I think the so what is that she basically destroyed this binary choice in music.
What do you mean?
Well, especially in jazz, there's this knobbery. You're either a serious artist who plays complex music for 10 people, or you're a sellout who plays simple pop for the masses.
Right. If you're popular, you must be bad.
Exactly. And Candy Dulfer just looked at that choice and laughed. She took the technical mastery from her dad's world, the serious stuff, and she applied it to pop hooks and stadium funk. She proved that you can be a virtuoso and still be accessible.
She didn't dumb it down, she dressed it up.
Perfectly put. And she did it as a woman in a field that was, and still largely is, dominated by men. She carved out a lane that just didn't really exist before her.
It brings me back to that initial question, nature versus nurture. We started with her dad, Hans.
And that's the provocative thought to leave with, I think. How much of her success is the environment growing up in a house full of saxophones and free jazz, and how much is just sheer personal grit?
Because plenty of kids of famous musicians don't end up on stage with Prince.
Right. The environment gave her the tools. But starting a band at 14, holding your own with Prince, that's not genetic, that's character. I think the hustle was all hers.
I have to agree. Well, listen, if you've only ever heard Lily Was Here in the background somewhere, go listen to it again with headphones. Really hear the tone of that Mark VI.
And then go find the live version of Life of the Party with Prince. Watch how she moves. That is a masterclass.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the funky, winding road of Candy Dulfer. We'll catch you on the next one.
Keep listening.